Hello, beautiful Libra. Something extraordinary is unfolding in your life right now, something that has never happened before. And if you're watching this, it's because God is preparing to bless you in a way that will change everything. This moment isn't random. You didn't just stumble across this video. You were drawn here because your soul is responding to a divine invitation. This is not just a horoscope reading, it's a spiritual alignment, a sacred message, and a cosmic calling meant specifically for you. There are moments in our lives when everything pauses. When the noise fades. When the soul leans in quietly and whispers, "This is the turning point." Libra, you're standing in one of those moments now. You may have felt it already. That strange lightness in your chest. That dream that won't leave your mind. That sudden memory that felt like it came from a lifetime ago. That song playing at the perfect moment. Those signs are not coincidences. They are confirmations. Divine ones. Here on Zodiac Whisper Tarot, we don't just read the stars. We help you hear the voice of your soul through them. We believe that when you're ready, the universe responds. And clearly, you are ready. Because right now, you're being guided into a space where God isn't testing you, He's trusting you. He's about to hand you a blessing so significant, it will heal places in you that even you forgot were broken. And here's the truth. You don't need to prove anything to receive this. You don't need to hustle harder or be more perfect. This blessing is coming not because of what you've done, but because of who you are, someone who has kept their heart soft in a hard world. Someone who chose peace over pride, love over noise, and truth over validation. So today, we're going to dive deep not just into planetary shifts, but into the divine orchestration of your life. We'll uncover why this particular moment is cosmically aligned just for you and what you're being prepared to receive, emotionally, spiritually, and even financially. But before we begin, I want to take a sacred pause. Let me say this from the deepest place in my heart. Thank you for being here. Every view, every comment, every subscription. They're not just digital actions. They're energetic agreements. Each one connects you more deeply to this soul-led community. And it's because of your presence that this channel continues to exist as a spiritual lighthouse for people like you, those who are awakening, healing, and rising. Libra, I want you to stay with me until the very end of this message, because the revelation that's coming could shift the way you see your entire life path. What you thought was a delay was actually divine timing. What felt like a silence was spiritual preparation. What you've been carrying is about to be lifted. If you're feeling something stirring in you already, if this message is ringing true in your body, your chest, your memory, then do this one thing to seal the energetic connection. Leave a comment with the words, "I'm ready to receive what was always meant for me." That's your soul's way of answering back. That's your yes to the divine. Let's begin. The stars have spoken, and heaven is moving. For you. Right now. You may not always realize it, but the path you've walked as a Libra has been unlike any other. In a world that often values loudness over clarity, aggression over grace, you have been quietly weaving something sacred, not through dominance, but through presence. While others may clash and conquer, you've chosen the higher road, holding space for peace, connection, and truth. This is not weakness. In fact, in the eyes of the cosmos, this is spiritual mastery. The ability to remain soft while navigating a hardened world is a divine strength, and it's precisely what makes you different. As a Libra, your soul came into this lifetime with a deep mission: to bring harmony to places of conflict, to reflect beauty where there's been ruin, and to gently recalibrate energies that have lost their way. You are ruled by Venus, the planet of love, balance, and values, not just material values, but soul-level truth. Your compass doesn't point toward conquest. It points toward connection. And that is why this moment in your journey is so important. You see, in astrology, not all blessings come through bold breakthroughs. Some come softly like a sunrise you didn't know you needed. The blessing that is approaching you now is not demanding proof of effort. It's not earned through striving. It's arriving because you've stayed true to something most people abandon when life gets hard: your heart. The very part of you that chose to remain open when you had every reason to close off. That's the part being recognized by the universe right now. Sometimes we ask, why haven't I received the reward yet? Why do others seem to get ahead when I've been kind, patient, and selfless? The answer, Libra, lies not in time, but in alignment. Your blessings were never denied, they were simply being timed with divine precision. You weren't late. You were being prepared. And now, after cycles of giving, forgiving, and silently waiting, you've stepped into a window where your efforts are no longer just spiritual seeds theory becoming fruit. There is something profoundly beautiful about someone who has held space for others while carrying silent storms of their own. You've done this not once, but many times. And whether others noticed or not, heaven did. Life sees everything, even the unseen. And there's a quiet promise written across the fabric of your soul, that your gentleness will make room for you. That your compassion will return to you, pressed down, shaken together, and running over. In moments like these, it's easy to doubt your worthiness. But here's the truth, one that echoes through the highest teachings of love: you don't have to earn what was always meant for you. You just have to be willing to receive it. There is wisdom in surrender, and power in staying soft. That doesn't mean letting people take advantage of you, it means choosing to remain aligned with who you truly are, even when the world tells you to harden. So if something in you has felt overlooked, forgotten, or behind, please know that your timeline is sacred. Your path, your pace, your rhythm's all perfectly aligned. What's ahead of you now isn't just a reward. It's a recalibration. A restoration. The universe is not paying you back, it's returning you to yourself. And the blessing that is coming isn't to prove your worth. It's to remind you that you've always had it. In gentle timing, with perfect wisdom, what you've held inside quietly, patiently, faithfully is now being called forward. You were never missing anything. You were simply becoming the version of yourself who could carry what's next with grace. And now you are. There are times when something inside us begins to shift, quietly, almost imperceptibly. We wake up feeling different, not better or worse, just lighter. Emotions begin to rise and fall like tides, memories we hadn't thought of in years suddenly reappear, and dreams start to speak in symbols that feel more meaningful than usual. If this sounds familiar, you're not imagining things. What you're experiencing is a recalibration, a deep inner activation that aligns with a moment of cosmic significance for you as a Libra. And when this happens, it's not to confuse you. It's to gently prepare you for something greater. As someone ruled by Venus, the planet of balance, beauty, and harmony, your energetic system is especially sensitive to shifts in the emotional and vibrational landscape. You don't just observe energy, you absorb it. And right now, your inner world is responding to something beyond what the eye can see. It may not make logical sense, but energetically, your soul knows something is approaching, something that requires space, trust, and deep readiness. This is not about chaos or breakdown, it's about alignment. You're not unraveling, you're unfolding. And what's unfolding is a higher version of you that's been patiently waiting beneath the surface. That version of you doesn't react out of fear. It moves with intention, with clarity, with peace. And to step into that space, your system is releasing what no longer serves you. That sense of unease? It's not danger. It's detox. Your mind may not fully understand it yet, but your body does. Your nervous system is preparing to hold more light. And that takes grace. In astrology, the star card which showed up for you is not just a symbol of hope. It's a message that you're not lost, even if you feel like you're in the dark. The star is the light that doesn't overwhelm, it simply shines. It invites you to come back to your own center, your own voice, your own stillness. Just like the stars guide sailors home, this card appears now to remind you, your inner compass is intact. Follow it. When it comes to color frequency, you may feel especially drawn to shades like emerald green, soft white, or lavender right now. These aren't random preferences. Green is associated with the heart chakra, emotional healing, forgiveness, compassion. White brings clarity, simplicity, and renewal. And lavender connects to a sense of calm, helping quiet the inner noise so that the truth can surface. Surrounding yourself with these tones, even subtly through clothing, candles, or natural elements, can help support the emotional transition you're in. Numerologically, the appearance of 22, 6, and 11 is no coincidence either. These numbers carry high vibrational meanings. 22 is the number of the master builder, reminding you that you're not just moving through life, you're reconstructing something sacred with each choice. 6 is tied to harmony, home, and emotional responsibility. It reminds you to create balance without burning yourself out in the process. And 11 is a powerful gateway number, often signaling spiritual awareness and intuitive activation. You're not just sensing things, you're being awakened to the deeper current flowing beneath your experience. What you're being invited into now is not something to fear, it's something to welcome. Like a gardener tending to soil before planting new seeds, this phase of your life is about preparation. But preparation doesn't mean striving. Sometimes, the most powerful thing you can do is rest, reflect, and open yourself to receive. And if you're feeling uncertain, remember this: the best transitions don't always come with explanations. They come with invitations. Soft ones. Subtle ones. Just like this moment. There's wisdom in slowing down, in paying attention to what feels off and asking yourself if maybe, just maybe, that off feeling is actually a sign you're no longer in alignment with the old version of yourself. And that's a good thing. Because what's rising within you now is clarity. A deep knowing that something sacred is shifting, not around you, but through you. Sometimes, blessings don't look like open doors or windfalls. They arrive in subtler, quieter ways, in moments that seem unremarkable at first but carry deep healing beneath the surface. What if your greatest gift right now isn't more to carry, but permission to finally set something down? You may have spent years thinking that a blessing must come dressed in financial abundance, recognition, or achievement. But for you, Libra, this moment is asking you to see things differently. To see that release, rest, and reclamation of your own energy are blessings of a much higher order. You've held a great deal. Not just for yourself, but for others, for family, for friends, for those who never asked but always expected. You've worn the mask of balance for so long that even you sometimes forget what it feels like to just be. But now, the universe is creating space for you to remember. To remember that surrender is not the opposite of strength. It is strength. The ability to say, "I no longer need to carry this," is a signal that your spirit has matured, and your season of striving is giving way to a season of receiving. The way this blessing appears might surprise you. It may come in the form of a deep, dreamless sleep after months of restless nights. Or in a sudden exhale after a conversation where you finally spoke your truth without apologizing. It might come when you look at your calendar and realize there's nothing urgent, just quiet, and maybe for the first time, you don't feel guilty about it. These are not coincidences. They are small, sacred signals that your inner landscape is shifting. That something long buried beneath responsibility is finally rising to the surface to be seen, felt, and released. The tarot cards that align with this moment, the Empress, Six of Cups, and Judgment, tell a powerful story. The Empress is the archetype of nurturance, creation, and embodiment. She does not rush. She does not hustle. She receives. She rests into her worth. The Six of Cups brings the sweetness of memory, of innocence, of reconnecting with the part of you that existed before the world told you to try harder. And Judgment? That's the call. Not a harsh one, but a liberating one. A quiet trumpet within your soul asking you to rise, not by doing more, but by releasing what was never yours to hold. In moments like this, it's easy to second-guess what you're feeling. To ask, is this really a blessing if it looks like letting go? But sometimes, the truest rewards come through subtraction, not addition. Less noise, fewer obligations, clearer space to feel your own heartbeat again. When you trust that you don't have to prove your worth to deserve peace, that's when the deeper blessings begin to arrive. There is also wisdom in the gentle reminder many of us forget: you are allowed to live for yourself. You are not required to fulfill every role or obligation simply because you can. One of the most loving things you can do for the people you care about is to model what it looks like to honor your own needs. That isn't selfishness, it's stewardship. It's how you teach others that peace is not earned by exhaustion but by alignment. When you feel yourself releasing, don't resist it. Allow yourself the gift of exhaling. You don't need to fix everything. You don't have to be the steady one all the time. Sometimes, the most powerful act of faith is stepping away from what no longer nourishes you, trusting that in the clearing, something softer and truer will grow. Let your blessing be the lightness. Let your reward be the relief. And let yourself believe, even just a little, that maybe, just maybe, this moment is exactly what your soul has been asking for. There's something profound that happens when a person stops moving out of duty and starts moving from desire, when their actions are no longer driven by what others need from them, but by what their own heart quietly longs to express. For many Libras, that shift doesn't arrive in dramatic fashion. It comes in moments so subtle, they're easy to overlook. But once you recognize it, it changes everything. It's the moment your heart whispers, "I want something more," and you finally choose to listen. For so long, your energy may have gone outward toward keeping peace, supporting others, or maintaining harmony in spaces that often drained you. It's part of your nature as a Libra, to love without conditions and to give without needing applause. But even beauty must rest. Even balance needs to be restored from within. And this phase of your journey is asking a new question: what would happen if you gave even a fraction of that care to yourself? The story of the Libra woman who tended her garden is more than just a metaphor. It's a blueprint for rediscovery. She didn't build her sanctuary for success or recognition. She didn't intend to create a ripple. She simply followed what felt alive in her: her love for growth, her connection to the earth, her longing to teach what she knew without needing permission. And through that quiet choice, her purpose revealed itself, not in applause but in alignment. That's how healing begins. That's how awakening unfolds, not through noise, but through stillness. In astrology, Libra is ruled by Venus, the planet of values, aesthetics, and emotional resonance. But Venus also governs self-worth. And what many forget is that expressing your truth is not a disruption, it's a return. The universe doesn't require you to chase after grand missions. Often, the most radical act is choosing to honor your small, sincere longings. To plant a seed and believe that's enough. To create without an audience. To serve from joy instead of obligation. This kind of internal awakening is what many spiritual teachers call alignment with divine timing. But let's make it simpler. It's when the rhythm of your inner life finally matches the truth you've been carrying all along. And once that happens, life begins to flow more easily, not because you've fixed everything, but because you've stopped resisting who you really are. There's a reason we're told to love our neighbor as ourselves, not more than, not instead of, but as. That balance matters. When you only love outward and never inward, your light dims quietly, over time. But when you begin to reconnect with what lights you up, from a favorite song, to tending a plant, to sitting in silence without guilt, you start generating the kind of energy that transforms not only your own life, but those around you. Just like that woman's garden became a haven, your personal joy can ripple outward in ways you may never fully see, but they're real. So let yourself want something more, not because what you've done isn't enough, but because you are allowed to grow. Let your actions be born from your soul, not from your sense of duty. Let joy be the compass. You don't need a title, or a plan, or a platform. You just need one question: what is my heart asking me to create now, not for anyone else, but just for me? Whatever answer arises, trust it. Trust that it's enough. That you are enough. That listening to your heart might be the most powerful decision you'll ever make. And that sometimes, what starts as a whisper becomes the healing story someone else is waiting to hear. It's easy to dismiss the subtle moments, those quiet flashes that stir something inside you but disappear before you can name them. A dream of someone long gone, a melody playing unexpectedly, a scent that brings you back to a time you thought you had buried. But what if those moments aren't just memory? What if they're gentle messages meant to lift you, not haunt you? As a Libra, you carry so much responsibility. emotional awareness, the burden of making things right. And often, you do this in silence. But now, there's a deeper message surfacing. Not everything you've held was meant to stay with you forever. There comes a point in every healer's journey, whether you call yourself that or not, when letting go becomes more powerful than holding on. And this part of your path is asking you to do just that. To acknowledge what you've carried out of love, out of habit, or out of guilt, and to finally release it with compassion. That doesn't mean forgetting. It doesn't mean erasing the impact someone had on your life. It means honoring it enough to set it free. Sometimes, the most beautiful form of remembrance is choosing peace over pain. The tarot cards aligned with this phase, Death, Temperance, and the High Priestess, are a trio of quiet transformation. Death is not about endings in the way we fear it, it's about clearing the space for rebirth. Temperance reminds you that healing doesn't come in extremes, it comes in integration, in giving yourself permission to live in the in-between. And the High Priestess invites you to listen more deeply, not to the noise of the world, but to the intuition you've always had inside. When these energies come together, the message is simple: it's time to come back to yourself. The people we've lost, especially those we had unresolved emotions with, often live inside us longer than we realize. Maybe you were the one who held everything together. Maybe you were the one who stayed behind. Or maybe you were left without the closure your heart still craves. But you don't need their permission to move forward. You don't need one more sign or conversation or explanation. You need one deep breath and the willingness to believe that it's okay to let their story end differently than you imagined. Their love, in its truest form, would never ask you to stay trapped in the shadow of unfinished pain. When you feel their presence, don't ask yourself what more you could have done. Ask yourself what you still want to live for. Let their memory become a bridge, not a weight. Let the love you shared be the reason you choose to heal, not the reason you stay hurting. One of the greatest lessons ever spoken is that love bears all things, but it was never meant to bury you under its weight. Real love wants to lift. And sometimes, those who are gone want nothing more than to see you smile again, not out of duty, but from joy. So if you've been waking up with a heaviness you can't explain, if your body has felt like it's holding emotions that don't belong to this moment, maybe it's because your soul is finally ready to put something down. Maybe that's the miracle. That even in grief, even in memory, you are still free to begin again. And maybe, just maybe, those you've loved and lost are already celebrating your decision to do so. Give yourself permission to be light again. You don't have to carry every goodbye. You don't have to prove how deeply you loved by how long you suffer. The past has shaped you, yes. But it does not own you. And somewhere beyond what we can see, someone who once held your hand is now releasing it so that you can reach for your own life with both hands open. And now, dear Libra, if your heart feels even a little lighter than it did before you pressed play, then know that something inside you has already begun to shift. Sometimes, transformation doesn't arrive with fireworks or grand declarations, it arrives with a quiet breath, a soft inner yes, and a single moment of stillness that changes the course of everything. This is your invitation to make space for that shift to deepen. You don't have to change your entire life overnight. You don't need to become someone else. You only need to begin from where you are, with gentleness, with honesty, and with trust in your own timing. What if the most powerful healing didn't begin with doing more, but with letting go of the pressure to always be more? What if the version of you that feels the most free is the one who finally gives herself permission to rest, to feel, to release? You are not here to prove your worth. You are here to remember it. As you move forward from this moment, I invite you to reflect on just one question. What would my life look like if I truly believed I was already enough? Let that question guide you not to do more, but to become more aligned with what already lives inside you. Maybe it's the way you speak to yourself in the mirror. Maybe it's how you allow yourself to pause before saying yes to others. Maybe it's giving yourself the quiet grace to do absolutely nothing, and trusting that even in stillness, something sacred is unfolding. You see, the truth is, you were never meant to carry the world alone. You are allowed to receive, to rest, to receive love without earning it through exhaustion. When you whisper to yourself, "I still have hope," you anchor yourself to the light that has never left you. And that right there is where miracles begin. So if anything in this message resonated with you, if even one line touched a part of your story, I want you to take a moment now and affirm it out loud, or better yet, write it in the comments below. Type the words, "I'm ready to receive the blessing that was always meant for me." By doing that, you're not just saying yes to this message, you're saying yes to your healing, your peace, your next chapter. And if this video felt like it was written for you, it's because in some mysterious, beautiful way it was. Your energy called it in. Thank you for showing up. Thank you for trusting your intuition and your heart enough to be here. Every comment you leave, every like, every share, and every time you subscribe to Zodiac Whisper Tarot, you're not only supporting this sacred space, you're helping keep the light on for others who are still finding their way back to themselves. You, Libra, are the quiet light in a world that desperately needs softness. You are the balance between grace and strength, and today, you've taken one more step back toward your own center. Keep going. Keep trusting. The universe chose you first. And now it's your turn to choose yourself. Let this be your moment. Let this be your beginning. Let this be the first time you truly say, "I am worthy, and I am ready."